creepy Russell Williams, looking rather fine and
Rather dapper.
military being the operative word. He was very military-like in his MO, wasn't he?
He's very chisel-chinned, isn't he?
He is, and if I didn't know his horrific crimes, he seems like a sort of jocular, amiable chappy, doesn't he? He actually looks good and proper and a little bit sort of friendly and cheeky and just a nice guy. Average, friendly. I think he's got quite a comical face, and I don't know if that's because of my, in retrospect, of knowing him in his little outfits, But there's something very comical. Yeah, I think it is because of the little Barbie bikinis and all of that. I do see his face as being rather comical because in those photos, he's kind of got the same expression, hasn't he? He's rather
Yeah.
pleased and smug and
Rather
yeah.
happy with himself, right?
Yes, all is good with him, isn't it? It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah. He's rather satisfied.
I know, satisfied.
We
Yeah.
we were speaking about a rather elaborate theory that we have about Russell and what was really going on deep down with his strange urges
Yeah.
that we might get into later on because we're obviously going to be
Yes.
playing the interrogation. I think this is the number one interrogation that's available for public viewing that I've seen anyway, for a few reasons. Number one, just to witness the contrast in the character and the confidence in Russell at the beginning to the end, and
Yeah.
also the performance of the interrogator, Jim Smith, which is an
Yes.
absolute masterclass.
Jim is superb. For me, the fascination of this interrogation, it isn't just Colonel Russell, it's Jim Smith. I mean, he is just astounding, isn't he? He's obviously well trained as an FBI interrogator and profiler, but it's not just that, which he's obviously very superb at. It's his understanding of humankind, human nature, his perception and his intuition. There is no rule book for that, is there?
Yeah,
He is just
yeah.
absolutely on. He's just absolutely on it, isn't he? In sussing out every step of the person in front of him. He's, if not one, two, three, 10 steps ahead of him. He's preempted him, hasn't he? And I think for Jim to have that understanding,
Mhm.
he's a very, very deep and intuitive guy, in my opinion.
You either
Yeah.
have good intuition as a person in general or you don't, right?
Yes.
It just
Hmm.
so happens that some people that end up in law enforcement just happen to also have really good intuition. They will be
Yes.
excellent interrogators, some not so much. I've seen
Yes.
some terrible interrogations before,
Yeah.
where it sounds like the interrogator is literally just reading the lines out of the paragraphs of the book on the read
Yes.
technique. It's so
What he's
transparent.
supposed to do. Yep. What he's
Yeah,
supposed to do. Yes, I agree with you. It's like in anything, isn't it? In any job role, it's the person that you are that makes all the difference, that makes excellence, isn't it? And I think Jim's a good person, isn't he? He's got great
yeah, that
integrity.
can kind of read that in him. And just one
Mm,
thing is probably a good idea to point out just before we start this is what is so interesting to see is Jim Smith under different circumstances with a totally different type of suspect in front of him, and to just witness
mm-hmm,
how entirely different his actions are, how he treats the
mm-hmm.
suspect. It really highlights exactly what you're saying. He's reading the person in front of him very carefully.
Yes, he knows what to do. He knows his next move, doesn't he? Because he's read that person so well. He almost understands the person before they understand themselves. There's so much to say about
And we'll get into
Russell,
all that,
isn't
right?
there? Yeah.
Before we jump into this, do you want to say anything just in general, just to give the context for anyone that doesn't know anything about Russell Williams and some of the background? Obviously, this is in Canada, right?
Right. So at this point, he thinks it's an interview. He thinks he's helping out, helping out. There's been one murder and there is one missing. There's great worry around the second victim, who is at this point missing, right, under
So,
very suspicious and quite, very worrying circumstances.
was the first
Russell's been
victim
called
found at
in.
home then?
First victim was found at her home, strangled at her
Right.
home. 4 or 5 months later, another victim has gone missing, right?
Hmm.
They don't know where she is, but she's been missing for days. And
And
so Russell's come in to help with inquiries. He thinks he's just being interviewed. He doesn't realise that his SUV was seen parked up in a field next to the house of the woman who's missing, right? These two
yeah,
guys, remember, driving by because it's very sort of rural around this military base. And then remember just seeing it's very unusual. They saw this parked SUV in the field next to this house. They didn't know at this point that this woman was missing. And then a few days later, there's been on the news a missing report about this woman from this home, right?
hmm,
And they thought, that's the house that we drove by. That's
right.
where we saw the SUV. So they reported it to the police. The police have then traced that, I think it's a white SUV he had. It's quite
Hmm.
distinct. So they've taken tyre tracks, which were still there in the field. So they already know this, but Russell doesn't know this.
What they did as well is there was a road stop that they set up on the same road next to that house, and Russell drove through that and was stopped. And then that's
Mm-hmm.
when they checked his tire treads.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's not long
So,
before he gets pulled in here.
yeah. So at
And
this
and
point, to the police who are interrogating him, that he is like number one suspect. But Russell just thinks he's helping with inquiries. He just thinks he's
yeah,
being helpful.
he has
Yeah,
no
yeah.
understanding how much of a suspect he is. I think that's kind of fair to say, right?
He has no idea.
So let's
Mm-hmm.
start this. We've got a lot to go through. We're not going to
We
play the whole
have.
thing because there is a lot of moments where nothing happens. So I
Yeah.
just want people to just notice here when he first walks in and looks up at the camera and look at the confidence in the eyes of Russell. What you're seeing there is Russell, the superior soldier, the soldier that's used
Yeah.
to being in charge. The chewing of the gum, I
I
think, just
know.
underlines the point, right? He literally
Yeah.
looks into the camera with a smile and a glint in his eyes.
He is so confident. He's relaxed, isn't he? He's confident. He's got this. He's got this.
He's in control. And just notice as well, like how we were saying, it's always the case that in the very beginnings of an interrogation, they'll go through some menial tasks, like just explaining a few things and some really easy questions. And what they're doing is reading the person, how they react under
Mhm.
the most
Yeah,
normal of circumstances possible in that interrogation room. And
yeah.
just witness that Jim Smith is completely aware that Russell is a man that is respected in the community, right? He's a man of
Mhm.
high standing. He puts that completely into full use in terms of how he treats
Absolutely.
him, right?
He feeds that into him,
Yeah.
definitely. He's spoon feeding him, isn't he? He's spoon feeding him this very sort of flattering respect, which he knows that Russell will lap up. It's almost like he's cushioning his prey, and I mean that in a nice way from Jim, because he knows what he's doing. This is what is so brilliant about him. He knows exactly what he's doing. You see, Russell thinks he's in control but it is Jim that is in utter control of the situation.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this exchange so interesting, so fascinating.
The guy I was speaking with on whatever night that was Russ as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he took every number I had.
Yeah. Now, they were doing some pretty thorough interviews that night. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really glad to see it.
I'm just going to move your gloves here. That's a little microphone, just to make sure there's nice and clear. As you can see here, everything in this room is videotaped and audio taped.
Check.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
No.
Let's get this set up here.
The way he's saying check,
Yeah.
you know, in his military language, and the way he says, after Jim asks him, have you ever been in an interrogation room like this? And he sort of laughs at the sort of absurdity that Russell Williams could ever be in this situation. And he has that grin on his face, right? He's trying to underline how out of place this is for him to be in this situation, right?
Yeah. And he's quite comfortable and cash, isn't he? He really thinks he's got it in the bag, doesn't he?
Look at the difference here in his body language at the beginning, how open he is.
Yeah.
You know, his
Yeah.
legs are wide apart, his arms are wide apart, he's comfortable, and just
Yeah.
see how that changes in about
Yeah. Yeah.
30 minutes time, I think.
Absolutely. You know, his smile is very genuine. He's almost laughing, isn't he? He's very relaxed. You know, he's got this in the bag. That's so apparent. That's his mindset. He's got this. Yeah.
I guess closest to interview by NIS for top secret clearance.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, again, Russell, I appreciate you coming in. An investigation like this, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate it's been big news, especially down Belleville way. And, you know, obviously our approach to cases like this is that we don't give up on somebody being alive until we get evidence that they're not. So because of that, we're treating Jessica's case as an emergent situation, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're fast forwarding things that we might normally take our time with. And that's why we're here on a Sunday afternoon. So again, I appreciate it.
Okay.
We're going to do a pretty thorough interview today. Okay. The reason for that is because the last thing we want is to be calling people back again and again and again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over a number of things, and I'm going to explain what all those are to you. Okay. I'm a big coffee guy. I don't know if you're a coffee guy or not. I didn't want to drink in front of you, so.
No, I appreciate that.
All right, go ahead.
I could definitely, are they black?
Yeah, they're just black with sugar.
Probably have a little bit.
Sorry, what's right?
Gum. Just
Oh, okay.
piece of gum.
Well, there's napkins there. Do you want to toss it or whatever?
I appreciate that.
All right. And again, like I said, this interview is going to be very thorough. But again, I have a simple rule when I talk to people. It's I'm sure you're the same way. I treat everybody with respect. I know I ask you to do the same for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by going through what your rights are. Okay? Just like everybody else. Okay. Have you ever been read your rights before?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it on TV a whole bunch of times, but that's usually the American version. So I'll go over with you briefly, okay? Basically in Canada, as you know, I'm sure, is we all have our rights guaranteed under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, okay? Now, Russell, just to avoid any confusion, because people do get confused when they're talked to by the police, is that you're obviously not under arrest here today, okay? Anytime you feel you want to leave here, you feel free to do so. The door's not locked. Teresa will walk you down the lobby anytime you want, okay? If there's anything that comes up in our interview today, Russell, that you feel you want to talk to a lawyer about, you just let me know, okay? And the reason for that is I want to explain to you exactly what's going on here, okay? Jessica Lloyd is one of 4 cases that we're currently investigating, okay? And essentially what's happened is over the past about 4 or 5 months, there have been 4 occurrences that, like I said, that we're looking into. 2 of those occurrences occurred in September of 2009. And very briefly, they were up in the Tweed area. They involved somebody entering 2 different women's houses in the evening hours and committing sexual acts. Okay. In November of 2009, A young lady by the name of Marie-France Como.
My people.
Yeah. Was found murdered in her home in Brighton.
Yeah.
And we believe that there was a sexual component to that crime as well.
Yeah.
And then most recently we have Jessica Lloyd's disappearance. Okay. So essentially, when you look at those kind of crimes, we're looking at a number of different potential criminal charges. All right. We're looking at issues all the way from the most serious one, which is first-degree murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, break and enter with intent to commit sexual assault, forcible confinement. Okay. And so what I want to make sure you understand, and this is what we've been doing with everybody we've been talking to, is that clearly when we find out who's responsible for one or all of those crimes, they could be charged with one or all of those offenses, okay, whether it's you or whether it's anybody else, all right? Absolutely. And that's why it's important that we make sure that people understand what they have.
Did you notice that part there? It was quite a big moment. He completely normalized and made it seem almost casual to present to Russell that when someone is going to be charged with possibly first-degree murder, whether it's you or someone else, in such a normal way. There's been a few punches to Russell's stomach in even these first few minutes, and he's doing it in the most submissive way, right? Because at the start of this interrogation, they're both on the same level in terms of, like, in his head, they're both on the same level in terms of their standing. You know, he's presenting himself as this being so absurd that he's in this interrogation room, but he's going to do what he can to help because he's a good citizen, okay?
Yes.
Right? But just very slowly, he has presented the fact that this could be a very intense, long interview, and then he's presenting the fact in such a calm way that potentially he could be charged with first-degree murder.
I know. And Russell's going, okay. You know, he's always still very confident, isn't he? He's agreeing with him. He's going along with it.
Yeah, but I think you can see a slight change even at this early stage in his manner. Because what you'll notice eventually during this interrogation, Russell William he literally freezes where he cannot move.
Yeah.
Right? And that has slowly started to happen here.
Yeah. And I think it's great. May I just add one little thing? I think it's great that you can see the main body, it's Russell. You can also see in the top that how they're positioned. They're in equal positioning, aren't they? They're sort of sat not opposite each other, but sort of side by side facing each other, aren't they? There's, you know, and then you can see Jim below, can't you? And you don't get that in many interrogations, so it just makes it even more, you know, fascinating, doesn't it? Yeah, I agree. I should be watching Russell very carefully. Yeah.
But it's also not an accident that Russell was in the far corner from the door, and Jim is in between both of them, right? That's not an accident. That's quite a common thing in interrogations. You know, it paints.
They're very clever, aren't they? They're very clever with their positioning.
That's why it's important that we make sure that people understand what they have to do and what they don't have to do when they're talking to us. Okay. So as I said before, any point today you feel the need, you want to speak to a lawyer, you let me know, and we can take you to a room where you can do that in private. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have your own lawyer?
I have a realty lawyer, but I don't have a lawyer.
All right. You want to make that call and you don't know who to call. We have a phone list of lawyers that are available to give you advice free of charge right over the phone. Okay. So again, if at any point today you want to take advantage of that, you just let me know.
Sure.
Is there any reason you want to call a lawyer now?
No.
Okay.
That was another punch.
Yeah, lawyer.
A couple other fairly simple and straightforward things that you probably understand, but again, we go over them to make sure everybody's clear, is that you don't have to speak to me today, okay? And the reason for that is because the law considers me to be what we refer to as a person of authority, okay? Probably similar to what you may be considered to be on the base. And because of that, I can be compelled to appear before any judge in the country, basically, to account for what takes place here today between you and I, okay? And that's the reason why everything's recorded, because there can't be any more accurate record than that, right? So,
no, understood.
And the other thing I want to make sure you understand is that, you know, you mentioned a second ago about Miss Como being one of your work associates. So I don't know what's happened since November on the military side of things. But what we want to make people clear on is that if you have been spoken to by any person in authority or any police officer about any of those cases, I don't want what they may have said to you to make you feel influenced or compelled to say anything to me today, okay? Whatever you might have felt influenced or compelled to say to them earlier, you don't have to repeat it to me and you don't have to say anything further, okay? But obviously what you do say, for the third time is being recorded, right? So,
understood. These first two attacks happened not that far from my place in Tweed. Well, the second one did.
Yeah.
We didn't even know the first one had happened, but I understand that was reasonably close as well. But the second one was very close.
Yeah.
So certainly at the time, the OPP did a door-to-door.
Yeah.
And within a couple of days, probably the same night. So I spoke with a couple of guys then.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm aware of that from looking at the different cases. And essentially, Russell, in a nutshell, that's what we wanted to talk to you about. Okay. Those 4 cases are of concern to us. And, you've kind of hit the nail on the head of make us want to talk to Russell Williams, okay? Because essentially, there's a connection between you and all 4 of those cases. Would you agree? Geographically,
and then I guess I drive past. Yes, I would have to say there's a connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'll be quite frank with you. That's why things kind of evolved when the officers talked to you on Thursday night.
Okay.
We kind of went from there because when I think you discussed with them the fact that you were a colonel at the base.
I was in uniform at the time. So.
Yeah, so pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, then the connection with Miss Como was made. And I believe you're a door or 2 down from one of those 2 incidents
I think,
in Tweed.
3 doors down, yeah.
Yeah.
Very close, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So those are some of the issues we wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So just getting back to these 4 incidents that we're talking about, maybe you could just give me a little bit of history as to your arrival in the base in Trenton. When did you start working there?
Friday on the day I was Friday on the day I was at home most of the time. Most of the day I had a stomach flu.
Okay. In Ottawa or Tweed?
Tweed.
In Tweed? Okay.
Yeah.
So we backtrack then. So all day Friday, you're at home.
Yep.
And then what time do you leave to go to the base to sleep there on the Friday night?
Not sure. Probably just went in for just before bed. So I probably left Tweed between 8 and 9 or so.
Okay. And you get to the base and spend the evening there and get up for the 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So we backtrack from there. When did you arrive at your home at the cottage? I want to get confused between your home in Ottawa and the home in Tweed. So,
well, I had been in Tweed all week.
Yeah.
The week prior now. Yeah, I think that's the case. I was in Tweed all week. Flew Saturday. Headed to Ottawa Saturday night.
Okay. So if you didn't have the stomach flu on the Friday, what was your schedule that day?
Really.
Okay.
What would have been my schedule? Just a standard schedule in the office.
Okay.
So office brief in the morning, a couple of meetings. I can't remember what the specifics were going to be.
Okay. So Thursday night you slept at Tweed, or you?
Yep.
All right. And what did you do Thursday during the day?
Thursday during the day, I was at the base again. I think it was a fairly standard day. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, nothing. I was not flying, so I was at the base. So I would have gone in early in the morning, back in the evening again.
Okay. Do you remember what time you left the base that night?
Rabid, do you perceive him slightly starting to perspire a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 or 3 minutes ago, I think was the point at which he no longer had any doubt just how much of a serious suspect he is.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's sunk in now, and he's losing his bottle slowly. He's trying very hard to remain calm, but panic is slowly starting to set in.
I noticed that. I can visibly, he's sort of slightly turned pink, and I think he's starting to perspire, right? And he's just, it's very slight, but he's starting to rock a little bit. And I noticed a grimace about just before you stopped, he's trying to think. He's let that slip, hasn't he? It's like he's going, Yikes. Yeah,
And
yeah,
just look at his body shape
I
compared
know.
to the very start that I pointed out, how open his body
Yeah,
shape was at the beginning. And it was like the other interrogation that we were speaking about with Ted Bundy. He's doing the same thing.
yeah.
But he's even more pronounced. Ted Bundy was still trying to peacock, but Russell is
Yeah,
completely sunken
yeah.
into that corner of the room, isn't he?
He's visibly slipped, hasn't he?
Every
Visibly.
word he wants to retract from,
Mm,
and that's what's causing
yes.
that. And his arms are trying to defend himself, his body.
He probably doesn't even know he's doing them. He did a great one just a few seconds ago. It was a big, Yes, that's great
Peculiar,
stuff.
so I would say, I don't know, probably 7 to 9, somewhere in that range.
Okay. That's when you left?
Left the base, yeah.
What's
That's a 45-minute transit.
45 minutes home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to walk you through November, but I'm going to take you to a date that's probably pretty fresh in your mind, the day that Marie Franz coma.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you found out?
I do. Yeah, I was sent an email. Well, as soon as the ops staff and the base learned, they told me.
Okay.
So I got an email. I can't remember if it was late at night, early in the morning. It was certainly, I saw it, I want to say first thing in the morning, because I had just come back from Ottawa. I was in Ottawa for a set of meetings on one of the days. I can't remember what day of the week we're talking about, but obviously when your people gets killed, it gets your attention. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I very much remember that coming in.
And how did you know Marie Franz coma?
I'd only met her once. She was on a crew I was on just after I got to the base.
Okay.
So I can't even remember. I think it was a one-day trip. I did a number of trips in Canada transporting our troops, sort of first leg out of Edmonton. We tend to hopscotch them across until they get in the theater. So anyway, I can't remember which trip it was, but we did a number of them out to Edmonton just to pick up the troops, bring them to Trenton, and then put a fresh crew on, and because we fly out and back in the same day, so pushing the edge of that. And, fresh crew on, and then continue on after a couple hour delay.
Okay. Do you know roughly when that happened?
That we were on the same crew?
The time you met her, the one time there, yeah.
It was soon after I got to the base, so I don't remember exactly, but I would say in the first couple of months, so August, September.
I think it's worth saying at this point, Alice, just for anyone that's not aware, just how high level this guy was in the military base. He literally flew the Queen of England, the Prime Minister of Canada, on flights.
I think he was, if I remember correctly, he was perhaps just one or two below top command. The person that chose him selected him for his specific role, and I think he's a wing commander as well as a colonel. So yeah, he was one or two below the top guy. So he's very high up.
Now, you got that email notifying you that something had happened.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of a clear recollection as to how your schedule was going that week?
Well, I can't remember what day that the message came in. Just a second. No, I can't remember what day of the week, but I'm just thinking there was a whole bunch of activity spun up as a result, obviously. No, I can't remember the day of the week. just trying to think through the news reports I read.
He does not want to be answering these questions.
Oh, it's the most rubbish excuse in true crime, isn't it? I can't remember. And I think he said it 5 or 6 times. He can't, while he's frantically trying to remember, he can't remember. Doesn't want to answer, does he? No.
It's all going very wrong, Russell.
No. Oh dear.
Well, for instance, when you got the email,
Yeah.
do you remember where you were?
I was at home in Tweed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember if that was a week that you were reasonably stable in Trenton, or had you flown?
No, I had been in Ottawa. I had been in Ottawa early in the week for some meetings over in Gatineau for one of the, actually for the C-17 acquisition. I was project director when I was here in Ottawa for that, so just some follow-up stuff for that.
Okay.
So I had been here at some point in that week. Again, I can't remember how the days all fell together, but I seem to remember that I got this word shortly after having come back from Ottawa. It seems to me it was the same week.
So if we were to do a similar investigation in your background, is there anything you can think of that anybody may have misinterpreted, or anything in your history that somebody might say Russell Williams
Absolutely.
did this?
No.
Okay.
Be very boring.
What's that?
It'll be very boring.
All right, because essentially that's what I'm looking at. Is it? You seem like a very intelligent person, and I think you can see how a surprise like that would certainly set off some alarm bells in our investigation, right? Okay. So the next thing we need to cover off is, I'll just ask you this straight out. Given the types of crimes we're investigating, do you get much chance to watch television shows, CSI, things like that?
I do watch, I prefer Law and Order, but I do watch CSI occasionally, yes.
Okay. So you have an idea of, obviously, the forensic capabilities, things like that are out there. What would you be willing to give me today to help me move past you in this investigation?
What do you need?
Well, would you be willing to supply things like fingerprints, blood samples,
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Footwear impressions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Did you notice him look down at his boots?
Yes.
He is
Same boots
literally
on.
wearing the boots that will be the prime evidence
Yeah.
in this case.
Yes. They already have the boot prints from around
That's right.
certainly the second house, and all they need to do is take his footprints, and then they're going to match, aren't they? Because they've already got his tire tracks. Yeah, he glanced down, right? Glanced down, very, very.
And I was just about to ask you there a minute ago. Do you perceive that at this moment in time, do you think Jim knows he's guilty? Because remember, he's still to get the boot prints, right?
Do I think
Yeah.
that Jim knows that this is a man?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
I
know,
agree.
even if he hasn't got the physical evidence, he knows. He knows it's him. Did you see when he folded his arms?
Yes.
You know, a few minutes back, when he checked himself, look, he's all trying to be all relaxed again, isn't he? He's opened his arms, isn't he? He is now, if not fully aware, he's becoming very quickly aware that Jim might be onto him. Yeah?
I think he's fully aware
Yeah.
at this point. I think he knows that Jim suspects him as the one and only suspect in this. And he's trying very hard to present as how he perceives an innocent person would act in this situation. The only sort of thing that he can really sort of use as sort of leverage is his kind of standing, the respect that he hopes that he has from Jim and from law enforcement themselves. So he has to keep playing that role, because that's his one sort of good card that he thinks he has. Very soon he's going to start asking to make sure that no information about this interrogation may get out to the outside community, because it could be very harmful for the military base and things, you know? At that stage, he's not yet digested that he's done, right? So he's still clinging to the fact that he's going to somehow escape this. But he's still aware that that's his only leverage as his social standing, essentially, right?
Yes. You know, this military base and it's got great standing, not only in the community, but in Canada, right?
Nationwide.
So, you know, he's hanging on to that importance. You know, this is terribly important. Yeah, he's clinging to that now.
And that's exactly why Jim has showed him so much respect. Now, it might be fake respect, right? It doesn't matter, but what he's presenting is respect to Russell. And he's
Yes.
still in a very submissive role. He's quietly spoken. He's been very respectful to him. And he's doing that because he's banking on the fact that I think interrogators know that, and it's kind of part of the read technique, right? Where you try and offer a suspect an admission that doesn't seem as bad as what it really is going to be. So he's banking on the fact that if he bit by bit persuades Russell to admit some things, then he will do that because he's gained this level of respect with him. Even though he's terrified of Jim right now, he respects him because he thinks that Jim has respect for him and is being rather reverential to him, right?
Absolutely. It's a very subtle craft, isn't it, that Jim is presenting to him. Even though Jim is in control, he's presenting to Russell as some modicum of control, right? He knows that. Yeah, he's much more aware of that than Russell is. Yeah, very, very skillful.
Can I assume you're going to be discreet?
It's possible, yeah.
Because, this would have a very significant impact on the base if they thought you thought I did this.
Well, bottom line, Russell, that's one of the reasons we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
The military certainly be of great assistance to us, especially in relation to Ms. Como's investigation. So that's certainly one of the things that went into our decision to give you a call at home day and see if we could deal with this today.
Okay.
So, okay.
It's tough to undo the rumor mill once it gets started. But I appreciate that.
Okay. Now that you've had some time to, I know we've been throwing a lot of things at you here, but now you've had some time to think about things. Is there anything that you're concerned about that buckle swab matching in any of those 4 residences? Is there, I guess, let me explain what I'm getting at here, Russell, okay? This is a significant investigation, as you can well imagine. Yeah. That DNA is going to be significant in our investigation, both quite possibly to help you, quite possibly to help us.
Understood.
I don't know yet. I don't know what the result is yet. And I'll go back to the example I gave you because it's a very similar issue, I think. And you talked about the idea of discretion here. Okay. You talked about the idea that I think hopefully you appreciate the fact of how we approached you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And essentially, we have no issues with that. Okay. We talked recently about the whole idea of any unusual sex acts in your history. But another thing that can often happen in cases like this is that people become concerned about things like extramarital affairs, indiscretions along those lines. Is there any contact that you may have had with any of those 4 women that you may not want your wife to be aware of? Anything like that we should know about to try and explain why, if your DNA is found, it would help us understand why it may be there?
Absolutely not.
Can you think of any reason why we would find your DNA in any of those residences? Let's focus on, well, for instance, I believe, let me just check the name there, make sure I've got the right address. Talking about the house that was just a couple of doors down from you there in Tweed.
Couple of doors down was
the,
Lori. I don't know her last name. I don't know.
Mazzacati?
I don't even know what her last name is, but there's the woman down the road, 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Her name is Lori. I don't know her last name.
All right, let me just make sure we're on the same page here.
There's the woman down the road, 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Her name is Lori. I don't know her last name.
All right, let me just make sure we're on the same page here. My understanding is she lived at 76 Cozy Cove. Yeah, so she would be the one, the second one, the second incident on your road there.
Yeah.
A couple of doors down. Ever been in her house?
No. We met her once, I think the first summer we were there, so in 04.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. Again, this is a credibility issue, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to come and see you 2 weeks from now and say, Russ, our CSI people in that house. And are you familiar with how DNA works?
I think broadly, yes. I
Okay.
guess.
One of the challenges we have in 2010 with DNA is it's become so precise that I guess the best way to explain it is I can think back 15 years ago when I started in violent crime investigation.
Yeah.
For us to get a DNA match sample, we had to find, probably would have filled half of one of these cups. Because they destroy so much of the sample in the testing.
Okay.
Essentially, DNA has become more and more precise to the point where when you and I walked in this room earlier today, we could have sat down, talked for 30 seconds, walked out. CSI officer could have come in 3-4 days from now, did some swabs here, and he would have found your DNA and my DNA, and probably a lot of other people's DNA.
Sure.
A little bit gross to think about, but essentially, as we talk, we, a little bit aspirate comes out of our mouth that contains our DNA, our blood, or our skin cells contain our DNA, and that's what I'm getting at. If you were ever in Lori's residence, quite possibly, quite innocently, your DNA could be in that residence. Has there ever been a time you've been in there?
No.
Okay. What about the other lady down the road on?
I hadn't even heard that name, so no, I don't actually know who that was.
Okay. Have you ever visited Marie France Como at her residence?
No.
Okay. All right. So you're quite positive there would be no reason why your DNA would be in any of those 3 locations. Okay. Did you know Jessica Lloyd even in passing for any reason?
No, I didn't hear her name till it was on the news.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because I know you were asked that question on Thursday night, and sometimes what we find, and again, this is one of those situations that can sometimes cause us to get in a lengthy investigation as somebody that maybe doesn't deserve it. But what can happen sometimes is somebody gets stopped by the police like you did, and they get asked that question, and people, when they're stopped by the police, they can be nervous, okay? So they blurt out an answer, and then they start driving away, and they go, oh, why'd I do that? Because the problem is that once they get asked again, then they feel compelled to maintain that answer for fear that if they change their answer, somebody could find it. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So I want to make sure that's not happening here. I don't care what you said to the officers on Thursday night last week. If there's any...
And again, just to hammer home the point here that all these, like you said earlier, these subliminal punches, these messages that are just making Russell utterly aware of how bad his situation is. He's putting them to Russell in the calmest way he can, but he's doing the groundwork for later because he needs Russell to start to believe that Jim is his only friend right now.
Yes.
Right? And that's all part of getting a full confession, because I fully believe very few interrogators would have got a full confession out of Russell. A full confession. And that's what Jim got.
Absolutely.
And it was all
I
because of this
agree with you.
groundwork.
Yeah. Yep. And his explanation of DNA is fantastic. It's subtle, but it's strong, isn't it? DNA is ticking away in Russell's brain right now.
Yeah.
He's very worried about his DNA
Mm.
because DNA is incredible. If they've got your DNA, they've got you. And you've left loads of DNA here and there, haven't you, Russell? Right.
He certainly
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Communication or contact between you and Jessica Lloyd. You've seen her picture, right, around town?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Ever seen her before?
I don't know. I would say I have not.
Okay. When you get stopped at that location, has there been a time in the recent 1 or 2 weeks that your vehicle has left that road for any reason whatsoever? Have you driven into a field with your vehicle at all? For any reason you can think of?
Oh,
No.
wow. The field. For any reason, has your vehicle drove into that field, the field next to the house of his second victim? Let's ask him about that. This should be
Right.
super interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Here, this is important. So,
Yeah.
is there anything you can remember doing that would cause you to drive off the road
No.
at that section of roadway?
No, that's my early. That's the early part of the highway, and just head north. It's about 30 minutes from there to, probably 20 from there to my house.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that when the CSI officers were looking around her property, that they identified a set of tire tracks to the north of her property? Looks as if the vehicle left the road and drove along the north tree line of Jessica Lloyd's property. Okay. They took, they examined those tire tracks. And they have contacts in the tire business. Obviously, tire tracks are a major source of evidence for us.
Sure.
Shortly after this investigation started, they identified those tires as the same tires on your Pathfinder.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One of the other things that they do to try and identify the type of vehicle that may have left those tires, well, is they do two things. They talk to witnesses. Okay. There was a female police officer that actually drove by that location that evening and recalls seeing an SUV type vehicle in the field to the north of Jessica Lloyd's house, consistent with a Pathfinder.
Okay.
Could maybe consistent with other things, but consistent with a Pathfinder. And they what they also do to try and identify the type of the vehicle is they look at what they call the wheelbase width, okay? Because different vehicles, different makes, models have wheelbase width. So they can take those two sets of tire tracks, measure the distance between them, okay, and determine what the width is.
Sure.
And then they can enter that into a vehicle database, and it will spit out the types of vehicles, okay? Your Pathfinder's wheelbase width is very, very close to the width of the tires that were left in that field, okay? Do you have any recollection at all of being off that road?
No, it's not off the road, no.
Okay. All right. Russell,
Stop.
Your thoughts, Alice. Your thoughts.
I visibly saw his heart sink.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh crap. You know, it's his vehicle in the field, right? And he knows it's his vehicle, but he's actually denying it at this point. I think he's starting to get frightened. Yeah,
Very frightened.
feel it, can't you? Yeah.
It's no accident that both his arms are embracing himself, right?
Yeah.
Both. And they're not going to move for a while. He is literally paralyzed right now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in the last,
Mm.
since Jim came out with that piece of evidence, he was paralyzed.
Yes. And he stopped chewing on the gum, hasn't he?
Right? That's right.
He stopped chewing. And yeah, I feel his fear. You know, not only has the boots been mentioned, but his SUV. It's his. He knows it's his. He was there. But yeah, and he's actually denying it, right? He's starting to try to deny things. But yeah.
I think he's doing a lot of mental processing right now.
Yes. Yes.
and
Yeah.
he's not finding any answers.
He isn't. He isn't. And I think he's probably wincing inside that he's denied it, right? He's starting to deny things, which he must know that's not boding well for him, right? There's a fear and confusion is setting in. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why it was so important that he asked him the question: is there any circumstances at all, with which you might have been at these two properties? Just
Yes,
to tie him into a lie.
yes. Just to clarify. Yes. Yeah. Very clever, isn't it?
Mhm.
Is there anything you can think of? Let's go talk about Marie-France Como for a minute, okay?
Mhm.
Is there any reason at all you can think of that during our investigation, obviously we're searching computers, things like Blackberries, right? Electronic devices, looking through houses for things that are in handwriting, written notes, diaries, things like that. Now, I'm not at liberty to tell you what the content was, but is there any reason at all you can think of why Marie-France Como would have specifically referenced you in some of her writings?
Not at all.
No?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Is there anything that she ever said to you that led you to believe that there might be something more than a passing interest with her towards you?
Not at all. No, we spent, one flight together talking. I'd go back occasionally and talk. No, if that's the case, that's very surprising.
Okay. All right. You have any questions for me right now?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to step out and see how things are going. Okay. I mean, it is a Sunday, but there's probably 60, 70 people working on this file, so there's a lot of things happening.
Sure.
So let me go out and see what's happening, and then I'll come back in and we'll hopefully continue. Okay? I told you when I came in here that I'm going to treat you with respect, and I've asked you to do the same for me. I told you when I came in here that I'm going to treat you with respect, and I've asked you to do the same for me. We talked about the whole idea of how we've approached you here, okay? The trying to be as discreet as possible, okay? But the problem is, Russell, is every time I walk out of this room, there's another issue that comes up, okay? And it's not issues that point away from you, it's issues that point at you, okay? And I want you to see what I mean, all right? This is the footwear impression of the person who approached the rear of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January, okay? All right? Now, I want you to keep in mind that this is slightly smaller, okay, in scale, okay?
Okay.
All right, that's not to scale. The footwear is actually bigger.
Okay.
If you look here on the ruler, you'll see that 1 inch is just slightly smaller than an actual inch, okay? But this is the way it prints off on the computer.
Yeah.
I'm going to move this over so you can see what I mean, all right? Because essentially, when you're dealing with footwear impressions, we have a gentleman on the OPP who's basically world-renowned. His name is John Norman. And essentially, with footwear impressions, you're in a situation where you're pretty much in the area of fingerprints, okay? And essentially, what we're talking about here is, especially when you start adding in other pieces of information that support an investigative position, okay? This is a photocopy of the boot that you took off your foot just a little while ago, okay? Now, I'm not an expert in footwear impressions, so I rely on the experts. Footwear impressions are very much like fingerprint comparisons, okay? You take a look at this print, and again, this is one print. This person walked through, there's several different prints to compare. So we're going to get features off of one print to compare, features off another print to compare. These are identical. Okay. Your vehicle drove up the side of Jessica Lloyd's house. Your boots walked to the back of Jessica Lloyd's house on the evening of the 28th and 29th of January. Okay. You want discretion. We need to have some honesty, okay? Because this is getting out of control really fast, Russell. Okay, really, really fast.
Can I just interject and say I love that
Yep.
bit. That's one of the most memorable moments of the interview when Jim
I
says to
know.
him, "This is getting out of control really fast."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's powerful,
Yeah.
isn't it?
That is the moment from the whole interrogation, actually, is that one
Yes.
moment. That's when he knows for certain he's done.
Yes,
And
yes,
he is going to be frozen again in this position right now, looking over and over what he already knows to be true,
yeah,
as if he's looking at a chessboard and he's in checkmate. There are no moves.
I know, this is it, Russell. This is it. Yeah, it's sunk in very, very quickly, hasn't it?
And I just want to point out something that's really interesting and revealing as well. It's what you're going to notice is that this interrogation is an interrogation of two halves. The first half is all about Jim putting in the spade work and doing a lot of talking, right? A lot of talking. The second half, it's all about what Jim doesn't say and the
Yes.
gaps that he leaves and the silence that he allows to hang in the air.
Yeah,
The silence speaks so much louder than words at times. He's just emphasizing how there is no alternative for Russell than to just confess because Jim is his only friend.
yeah. I love the way Russell's leaning forward and he's taking it all in, what Jim's showing him. He's paying full attention, isn't he?
All right, I came in here a few hours ago and I called you the way I called you today because I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I both know you were at Jessica Lloyd's house, and I need to know why.
I don't know what to say. That's,
Well, you need to explain it because this is the other problem we're having, Russell. Okay? Again, these decisions are made by me. Right now, there's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Ottawa. Okay? So your wife now knows what's going on. There's a search warrant being executed at your residence in Tweed, and your vehicle's been seized. Okay? You and I both know they're going to find evidence that links you to these situations. Okay. You and I both know that the unknown offender male on Marie France Comeau's body is going to be matched to you, quite possibly before the evening's over. Okay. This is a major investigation. The Center of Forensic Science is on call 24 hours a day helping us with this. Your opportunity to take some control here and to have some explanation that anybody is going to believe is quickly expiring. Okay. We're applying, the investigators now applying for a warrant to search your office. Right. These aren't decisions that we can say yes or no to. This is the practical steps in an investigation like this. And Russell, the listen to me for a second, okay? When that evidence comes in, when that DNA match, when that phone rings and somebody knocks on this door, your credibility is gone, okay? Because this is how credibility works, all right? And I know you're an intelligent person and you probably don't need to hear this explanation, but I also know your mind's racing right now, okay? Because I've sat across a lot of people in your position over the years, okay? The bottom line is that as soon as we get that piece of evidence that solidifies it, DNA, okay? As soon as the expert in footwear impressions, the expert in tire impressions calls and says, yes, I've examined those and they're a match, it's all over. Because as soon as that happens, where's your credibility? Where's your believability? You're just another, and again, don't take this wrong, okay? But you can see if you step outside this room in your mind and imagine how people are going to view you, okay? If the truth comes out after the clear evidence is presented to you, when you finally go, okay, I'm screwed now, what are we going to do?
So what you were seeing there was him first implementing the actual read technique there, right? Is to offer him what appears to the suspect to be a less incriminating confession as such, right? Even though in reality it doesn't make any difference to the actual outcome of what's going to happen to Russell, right? But it's trying to convince him that by confessing it's going to do him some good.
Yes.
When in reality it's not going to make any difference, right?
No, it isn't. It
He's
isn't.
screwed either way.
Yes, but it's important to acknowledge that Jim is saying to him, I respect you and I understand you, right? Even though he doesn't. He's presenting that to him. His message to Russell is, I respect you and I understand you, you know, and that's his way of saying, yes, you're screwed, so just tell me, yeah, just tell the truth, right? Yeah, but yes, this play on acknowledging Russell's standing in the community is very important to him, isn't it? It's key.
Yeah.
It's very key to the confession. You know, a quick, honest,
Absolutely.
full confession. Yeah,
And it's only because he put in the spade work, like I say, because he was so submissive in his general body language, I guess. You know,
yeah,
he's crouched down, he's
yes,
not aggressive in any way, and
yes,
he's been very respectful, you know, and
yes,
he manages to convince Russell, you
yeah,
know, that he respects him. Russell
yes,
thinks, Russell actually believes that Jim respects him right now, and that's the
yes.
only reason that he actually gets a full confession,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it's almost as if in this most grotesque, bizarre situation, there he is trying to construct a gentleman's agreement. You know, you tell me the truth. You know, that's what he's asking him, isn't it? That's the strong message I get. You're
Yeah,
screwed, and you tell me the truth, right? But he's saying it in a very gentlemanly way, right? It's
yeah,
all quite civil, isn't it? It's all
yeah.
very civil.
We
Yeah.
both know, we both know that you've
Yes.
been a bad boy, but I can offer
Yes.
you some trace of nobility from this.
Yes.
In reality,
Yes.
there's no nobility left for Russell, right? That's gone. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he's
Yeah.
forevermore the creep, serial killer,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to quickly show, just to underline this as well, another
Mm-hmm.
interrogation, just really quickly here, right? Just to
Sure.
show Jim Smith in a different interrogation, like I was indicating earlier, speaking to
Yes.
another suspect who just would not talk, but he
Mm-hmm.
was a different character from Russell.
Yeah.
And just have a look at this, okay?
On for 1%? I understand Mike here wanted to see what Terry Lynn had to say. Mike, Terry Lynn's still speaking to my partner, okay? This is the girl you killed, all right? She's not missing anymore. She's dead. Terry Lynn was asked today if she wanted to call a lawyer 4 times. She said no, all 4 times. She went through 2 boxes of Kleenex. I'm done with them. Yeah. This officer's got his job to do, Mike. He's got a different job than I do. For my investigation, you keeping your mouth shut is the best thing can happen. So keep on keeping it shut.
Okay.
You know there's only one option. What other option is there?
What's the option?
Well, I don't think you want the cold-blooded psychopath option. I might be wrong. Okay, because don't get me wrong, I've met guys who actually kind of enjoyed the notoriety, got off on it, got off on having that label. Bernardo being one of them. I don't see that in you. If I saw that in you, I wouldn't be back in here talking to you, quite frankly. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you got me fooled. I don't know. This is over. And it can have a bad ending where Jessica's parents continue to wonder where her daughter's lying. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a huge search still underway, and it'll continue. It'll continue until her body's found. That might even happen tonight, for all I know. Once that happens, then I don't know what other cards you would have to play. What are we going to do? Russell, what are we going to do?
Only Russ, please.
Okay. What are we going to do, Russ?
He asked him to call him Russ, please.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So he's
He's
acknowledging, isn't he, the friendship
Yep.
between them. Yeah. It's
The
like,
friendship
yeah,
that he perceived.
yeah, yes. He's that's one hurdle broken down. Yeah, yeah. Acknowledge the friendship. Call me Russ. Yeah. Quite bizarre, but you know, you can sense it quite clearly, can't you? I mean, when I watch this, I can almost feel his heart beating. You know, it's palpable, isn't it? He's yeah, I've got so much to say about this. We'll have a proper discussion at the end about his character, his sickness, and his brutality, and yeah, so much to say. But
Okay.
yeah,
Let's play on.
mhm.
Is Jessica somewhere we can find her easily? Like, is this something where I can make a call and tell somebody to go to a location and they're going to find her, or is this something where we have to go and take a walk?
I love the way as well that Jim has just skillfully maneuvered from it being a case of suspecting that you did this to actually just being a fact. Like, I know you did this now. Is it a case
Yeah,
that we just need to go here or there, you know?
yes. Where's the
And
body?
where's the body,
He's,
you know?
yeah, where's the body? Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's almost
yeah.
it's an attempt to get him over the line, you know, to just now accept that it's a fact. So the only line that he now needs to cross is to open his mouth and say, what he does finally say is, do you have a map?
Yeah.
Do you have a map?
Mm-hmm.
How cold is that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Which direction are we heading in here? Russ, maybe this would help. Can you tell me what the issue is you're struggling with? What's the issue you're struggling with?
Shame, I think.
It's hard to believe this is not.
Why is that? Why is it hard to believe?
Got a map?
Is she close to where she lives? I've got maps of that general area. Which town is she near? Why don't we start there?
I'm not sure if you give me a map of, it covers Caladar down to. So I didn't hear.
What did you say?
Just lie down on your tummy.
Okay.
She did. I tied her up.
Which tie her up with?
Some rope I brought.
So she's on her stomach. How are you tying her up?
Just tying her hands behind her back.
Okay. She got clothes on at that point?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of clothes?
Sweats.
All right. You tie her hands behind her back, and then what happens?
I took her clothes off.
Okay. And then what happened?
What's crucial about Russell, the torment, right? The torment is very apparent, you know, as well as the brutality. He's got this. I imagine all these killers. It's very physical, isn't it? It's a physical possession, but he's got this extra creepy bit, isn't he? He wants to play with them, torment them, you know, play games with them. And that quotation, I can't believe he did that. It's like blatant, isn't it? On her computer, he disabled her screensaver
He
so that
wanted
he
them to be
wanted
clear, right?
maximum impact. That she
Yeah.
came into her bedroom, bam, it's there, lit up, white background, black writing. Yeah, she didn't
Yeah,
even
I
have
mean,
to turn her computer on, it was there.
part of
She
what he was getting
screamed.
off on was the obvious fear that he knew that he was implanting on these
Yes,
people, right?
totally,
And
totally.
I was reading an interview of one of his old friends that was obviously aghast and shocked at what his friend had done, right? But he was talking about the fact that he started off at a pretty young age, I think in his, you know, late teens, maybe in college or something. He had a habit of playing pranks on people where he would sneak into his friends' rooms and
Yeah.
hide in the wardrobe,
I know, for
right?
ages. So like the whole afternoon, you'd be
Yeah,
hiding. I know.
and then just jump out, right? Surprise.
Yes. Yeah, he was well known for that. That's right. When he was when he went off to college to study, there were five of them, five best mates. They shared a house, and
Mm,
Russell was known as the prankster, always
yeah.
jumping out, playing tricks
Mm.
on people, frightening people, boo, you know, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, so he's always had uh,
It's obviously
that
connected, right?
that playfulness has
Obvious.
become distorted, hasn't it, over the years, right? It's already in his character. You know, if he'd remained a nice, decent guy, that would have been fun, but it became distorted over the years, didn't it? Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And I think you might have seen this, it's the same interview that I've seen then about his friend. They're best friends for 25 years, right?
Mm.
From 16, 17, right up until the point when his friend was watching the news one day, and he heard Russell Williams and murder, you know, on the news, and he suddenly paid attention, and he couldn't believe it. He could not believe it. That's his best mate. Yeah,
That will get your attention, won't it?
I know, I know. This poor guy, he's been in several documentaries and he sobs. You know, I don't think he can believe it to this day. It's just utterly devastating for him to, you know, how do you come to terms with that, right? I mean, his wife has never given an interview. She must be
Mm.
obviously devastated. But should we talk a bit about his build up then? Why we think
Yeah.
he went down the
Yeah.
path that he went down.
Why? Yeah. I mean, we spoke about a few things on this, right? From what we know. There's
Yeah,
not a huge amount to know about him, right? But we have probably enough, right, um, to come up with a kind of theory as to what was going on with him, right?
yeah,
What was turning the cogs in his mind. and I think it's something pretty strange. What do you think?
I think, I mean, I was surprised to learn. I never knew this about him until a week or so ago, and I started doing a bit of heavy duty research. But and this is from a reliable source, his best friend that I'm referring to, and he said that he had this girlfriend, Russ, and this girlfriend, they were, they'd been together for a few years, and he was really in love, and he thought that she was really in love with him, but she broke it off. I think he was about 22, so they'd been going out with each other for a few years, but when she broke it off with him, he was utterly heartbroken. And from the age of
Right.
22 to 29, he did not have a girlfriend, and he wouldn't even entertain talk of having a girlfriend. It was just off limits. This really profoundly affected him,
It's
and
quite a long time, isn't it?
it is for a guy to be in his prime.
Especially at that age.
What do young men do? They want to have girlfriends and do things and have fun and all of that. But that was completely off limits with him to even talk about it, which is very, very unusual, isn't it? It's very odd as well.
And when
Um,
did he decide on to start a venture into a kind of a military career?
right, so he was a student of economics and he was pursuing that as a career. But around again the age of 29 ish, he decided to join the um, Canadian Air Force. Yeah, he decided to switch from economics and pursue that. And
That's quite a switch.
it is, isn't it? And but going back to this self-imposed no girlfriend issue that he had for nearly a decade, highly
Mm.
unusual, highly odd. I can kind of in my mind, it's just my theory, and we've spoken about this, haven't we?
Mhm.
That he he became his own girlfriend in a way. He self-soothed himself, didn't he? He self-satisfied himself with this very private, hurt world that he imposed upon himself throughout his 20s by not having a girlfriend, by being traumatized by the breakup. I think that's the beginnings of him. I mean, you know, we've seen the
Losing his
photographs,
mind.
haven't we? We've seen the photographs. He
Yeah,
is wearing female underwear.
yeah.
It's pleasurable to him. It's his titillation, isn't it? It's his, I presume he commits several sexual self acts upon himself as he's dressing up. It's all part of this
Yeah, I think
very
that came out
private ritual. Yeah.
that came out in the trial that he was doing that.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads on to the kind of theory that we're speaking about that we have about him,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty much like this. Um,
Right.
I think um, there's a definite homoerotic thing going on with Russell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which might sound counterintuitive, right? Because he's the archetypal macho soldier,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, but to me, I think it's kind of obvious, right? Just by what we know and looking at those pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he enjoys exhibiting the feminine, right? There's no
Yes.
other reason, right, that he was doing that,
Yes.
right? There was something concrete there, right? He is enjoying himself in
Mm-hmm.
this female attire, right? It's
Yeah.
obvious,
Thoroughly
right?
enjoying himself.
And
Yeah.
but it's and he collected like female underwear. He had amassed like a huge amount of because it wasn't just these it wasn't just a handful of places that he sneaked into. Like he had a habit of doing this for a long time, right?
Yes.
He had amassed a pile, like a few drawers full of like female underwear, right?
Hundreds of items of not just bras and panties, but bathing suits, shoes, sex toys, photographs that he'd broken into houses and rummaged through family albums and removed, you know, pretty pretty girls and young women.
Yeah.
He amassed, he had hundreds of these items, all careful. I mean, you can see in the photos, carefully laid out, you know, all the
Mhm.
thongs together, all the pants together, all the bras together, all meticulously laid out and recorded. He had a book recorded of what he took and when he took them. You know, he was
That is
meticulous.
so
I
bizarre.
know.
The fact that he kept a
Yes.
kind of log of his
Yes.
activities,
Yeah.
it's like this weird, perverted sort of amalgamation of his kind of
Mm.
military precision with his
Yes.
utterly devious pursuit, right? But
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
to delve deep down into what I think was going on is that
Hmm.
he, for whatever reason, he was trying to become these archetypal female attractive people, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
These sexual beings.
Yes.
Like he wasn't just attracted to them, he wanted to actually be them,
Yes.
right? And it's a big distinction.
Mm.
Um, seems to me, through his career and things, right, that he sort of created himself into the embodiment of what attracted himself, that he was
Hmm.
essentially attracted to his own image, the mirror image of himself. But he, some of the time, or a lot of the time, wanted to be the female half of the
I,
fantasy,
I
right?
agree. I
Like
agree.
he himself made himself into that image,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
he also wanted to possess the other half of the fantasy. And I think
Yes.
that's clear from what he was up to, with
I
his
think so.
pictures and
I
his
think so.
collection.
He was his own girlfriend. He fancied himself. Yeah. It
Mm,
was all self-contained. This self-imposed, um, throughout his 20s when he didn't have a girlfriend. He in his imagination was his own girlfriend. He was his own satisfaction, right? And it manifested itself, didn't it, into this grotesque reality where he would go and steal all this female pretty stuff, right, for his own sexual titillation and gratification. I do think that those photographs, um, he likes what he sees, doesn't he? He's rather fetching and delectable, isn't he, when he's got the little bra and panties on? I can't get over, just the facial expressions, the pose.
I know, I
He's
know.
yes, he feels good. You know he feels good, right?
Oh yeah,
It's it's
it's the
it's horrible and creepy,
it's
but you can kind of see,
it's the
um,
fact that that those pictures are not taken as a selfie. He's went to the time to actually
mm,
set the camera down or the phone down on a timer and
yeah,
then ran back to the other side of the
yeah,
room to do his pose.
yeah, yeah.
Numerous times.
I know. He is his own girlfriend, isn't he? In a way, that's how I perceive it. He's yeah, this whole ritual, this thing that he does, and there's so many photographs. We've only shown a few, but I think he try. I think he. I imagine he every item he stole. I think he wore and took photographs of. Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
there's
there's any doubt about that.
yeah, that's part of this creepy, horrible ritual that he had going on. But yeah, I do think it is. He was his own girlfriend.